Joining us now, former Governor Virginia. Got a lot to say about this. Might run for U.S. Senate. We don't know. He's also chairman of the 9/11 Commission, and he was governor during 9/11, so he knows a little bit about the flag. Governor Jim Gilmore, good to have you, sir.
Good. Thank you, John. Thanks for the chance to be on again.
All right, look, NFL, really a lot of people upset today. The president started it by calling these people out. Then we had 200 protesters not stand up for their country's flag, their national anthem. What went on in England, I thought, was unconscionable. Finally, you had an owner stand up and say, you know what, this is wrong. That's Jerry Jones. You had an NFL quarterback stand up, say this is wrong. That was New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees, good guy. What do you make of this whole thing, Governor?
Well, listen, I think that we have to remember that the NFL is so highly televised. This is now a television and radio society. That's where the power is. They're flashing messages into the body politic of the United States. And I just disagree with the idea that our effort to stand up for our country with the national anthem should be disrespected. And I think that that's what's going on. I think the NFL player, I'm not sure exactly what message they're trying to convey, by the way. Colin Kaepernick, I think he had some objection. He seems to be blind to the fact that everybody in America, without regard to race or gender or color or anything else, has to struggle to succeed. Everybody has to fight their way up. That's what America is really all about, and what creates great value and success. So I'm not sure exactly even what Colin Kaepernick was trying to do. But now to get this thing to the point where just in order to be disrespectful to the president, other players are now behaving the way they do, I think is wrong. And I think that if you want to look on the bright side, yesterday the Pittsburgh Steelers all decided to be disrespectful of the national anthem and to stay in their locker room during the national anthem. And one guy broke with that. I think his name is Alejandro Villanueva.
Right.
He had been a former United States Army soldier. He refused to go along with that disrespect to the United States, and he came out and stood for the national anthem. To the disconcernment, by the way, of the people who decided to stay in the locker room and put their finger in the eye of the American people. So I just think this is the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong expression. It's taking advantage of people who have loyally supported the game for many, many years. This is, look, we play the national anthem at NFL games. We play it at Major League Baseball. We play it at minor league baseball. We play it at high school football. The tradition of the United States has been to come together and reaffirm our nation, which is the greatest nation on earth, with the greatest rights, the greatest opportunity for everybody, and to basically, be disrespectful of our country. I think there are a lot of ways to advance arguments from the left that doesn't spit in the eye of the American nation.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Governor. I really did think the whole thing was very disconcerting, very despicable. But I do want to commend Jerry Jones, owner of Dallas. I mean, he gets on our nerves as a football fan more often than not. Mike's an Eagles fan, so he can't stand them. But look, I don't. My team is in the AFC South, so it doesn't matter to me. But look, Jerry Jones came out and blasted this whole thing this morning. He was the first owner to say, you know what, this just shouldn't be happening. It'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys players do, whether or not they'll stand with their owner and stand with a flag or continue to do this nonsense. Yeah, Dallas at Arizona tonight. So I hope Dallas wins just based on what Jerry Jones has said. At least he stood up for them. Governor,
well, I'd like to, if I could, just for 30 more seconds, put
yes.
in a larger context. This country is facing a international crisis right now. It's not just North Korea. It's the challenge that we're seeing now from Russia and the Ukraine and the Crimea and Eastern Europe, the Chinese and the South China Sea. I have said that I suspect that the North Koreans are just a stalking horse for all of these people. This is a grave challenge, and the enemy wants to divide this nation. That's what they want to do. So, they've got to be delighted with the fact that the public policy leaders of the United States that put on helmets and uniforms and go on TV every week, often 5 or 6 or 10 times a week, are dividing the nation. They like that. We have a time. This is a time when we have to draw the nation together. Doesn't mean we have to disregard people's grievances, but it does mean that we have to express to the rest of the world, particularly in London, that we're unified as a people in the face of this crisis, because there are really rough times coming, John. and we have to be unified. And the NFL at this point is expressing itself as being against the American nation that supports it.
Unbelievable. I never thought in my lifetime I would see a day like I saw on Sunday. I really didn't. You know, I said earlier, Governor, you know, first they kick God out of the schools, then you can't say the pledge, and you have this whole atheist movement representing a tiny fraction of people. You know, then you have Transform America, the apology tour, and now we've gotten to where we are now, which is you have a high percentage of NFL players on a Sunday not standing up and honoring their flag, the men and women who are dying for them. I just never thought I would see this. All right, I got to get out and move on. Let's get to the German election yesterday. Angela Merkel winning, but a right-wing party that is opposed to refugees and everything that she's done, gaining a little ground. But a lot of people 6-7 months ago didn't see Merkel winning in Germany to the extent that she did. What happened?
Well, I was invited yesterday to go to the German embassy in Washington and do their watch party, which was fun. I do a lot of watch parties with the Republican Party, but I had not been invited previously to go and do a watch party with the German country. So it was great fun to watch this, and people were, I think, startled about the fact that there now has been a shift in German politics. First of all, let me say clearly that Angela Merkel is a bulwark for the Western alliance. She has stood up to the Russians. She has stood sound with the Ukrainians. She has stood firm with the NATO alliance. And she is a great asset to us, and she's going to be the chancellor again. But what the German election tells us, John, as you so wisely point out, is that this rebellion against the status quo that we saw in the United States, that we've seen in Britain, and now we're seeing, is not over. Now we've seen a piece of it in Germany as well. People are just tired of the leftward drift of the world, and they want to try to make things better. Now, I don't know much about this Alternative für Deutschland party, and I'm not sitting here endorsing it because I don't know enough about it to do that. But I will say to you that it's clear that it's an expression of dislike and anger towards the immigration rules that Angela Merkel put in. That's what's going on. All the various status quo parties in Germany lost votes. This new party is now the third largest party in Germany. So I think that it's a wake-up sign that says that unrestricted immigration is not going to be the wave of the future, that the people are going to stand up and use whatever vehicles available to oppose it.
And so that everyone knows, this party basically 15 months ago didn't exist. It didn't exist. And now it's the third largest party in Germany. It outgained everybody. It gained seats in their Bundestag, and they're going to have to be part of any governing coalition. But now they're going to get better candidates. They're going to raise money, and they're going to be something in Germany that the status quo is going to have to deal with. You're absolutely right. Okay, let's get to healthcare. Our friend, John McCain, once again bailing on any changes to Obamacare whatsoever. So I don't see how they get Graham Cassidy through, Governor, now without McCain. Ted Cruz also says he's not in favor of it. I think it's dead. I thought it was a great bill because I would have loved to see the creativity of the states administer block grants. We understand now that Lindsey Graham and Senator Cassidy have added $15 billion to the bill that would go to the states. Even though it's not really repealing the pieces of Obamacare and much of it stays in, it does give authority back to the states, which I happen to think could be very interesting. You know, states can be creative. You were a governor. You can be creative. I was on a conference call with Tim Kaine and Mark Warner on Friday. They were blasting it. And I said to them on the call, when they opened it up to questions, I said, both of you gentlemen were governors of Virginia. Wouldn't you prefer, as governor, to have more authority over what the health plan in Virginia looks like, working with your General Assembly, than the federal government? I mean, you were both governors. Why are you not in favor of this? And neither of them answered it. But what happens now, Governor?
Well, I think that the thing the people of Virginia need to understand is where we are today as Virginians at the United States Senate. We're represented by moderate to liberal Democrats. And we need to remember, in all of these national debates that are going on, no matter what the issue, the Democrat Party at this point has been captured by the far left. And as a result, it never yields, no votes ever, in terms of trying to come together with the Republicans trying to move the country forward. They're a unified resistance, and they use that word. So that's where we are today in Virginia. We're in the resistance against the Republican efforts to try to do reform. And that's where we are. So if you like Warner and Kane, stick with Warner and Kane. But if you want to try to get the country moving in the right direction, you got to make a change. Well, John, look, this comes down to tax reform, which has been one of the central issues of my nonprofit, tax reform to get more jobs and more growth for the economy. It comes down to an Obamacare where we try to do a reform to get the market more engaged in what's going on with health care, to control the growth of Medicaid and let the states deal with that on their individual ways. There's foreign policy issues as well. Tim Kaine has been very outspoken on foreign policy issues and condemning the president for his approaches. So, let's remember where we are here. We have the two Democratic senators that are playing on the left wing's team, and that's where they are.
So, in the conference call, Senator Tim Kaine was up for re-election in 2018, and this is an open conference call with reporters that cover Virginia. He said that Graham Cassidy was a ruse, and he said the real basis for it is to cut Medicaid, which Republicans have always wanted to do, in order to open the door for Trump's tax reform program. And he couldn't understand why Medicaid was even part of the bill, why cutting Medicaid was part of the bill when Trump said during the campaign he wouldn't touch Medicaid. And he said, so if this is really about block granting the states, why is Graham Cassidy cutting funding to Medicaid? How do you respond to that? Do you have any idea?
I respond this way. When I was governor and trying to put together a budget, there was always this giant block of money that you could not touch because it was Medicaid. The left goal here is to expand Medicaid to the point where it covers everybody. Right now, it's supposed to be a safety net for people who are very poor, who can't get health care any other way. And so there are limits, and they can get on Medicaid. Their goal is to expand and increase the limits so that more and more people, so that they finally get around to the point where everybody is on Medicaid, and it's a single-payer system. The problem is it will break the states. I'm telling you, John, the Medicaid will break the states because what you really have here is unlimited demand for health care from everybody, and only a limited amount of money that's able to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to limit doctors' fees, and you're going to have to limit lots of things, and you're going to end up reducing the supply of medical care further until the whole system collapses. I think the Republicans understand that, and they're trying to get a handle on this. But to get rid of any kind of reform at the national level means that we just are inevitably on the downhill slide. And that's where Warner and Kane are. They're on a downhill slide on medical care because of their reliance upon this single-payer type of approach.
All right. That is going to be the final word. I want to thank Governor Jim Gilmore for being with us. Governor, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. And we know you're contemplating a run for U.S. Senate, and you'll be making your decision, I would suspect, very soon, right?
Oh, no. Well, let's just see how people feel across the state of Virginia. I'm not into suicide missions. We'll see what happens. But I am into trying to make the state better. I am into trying to make the nation better. I've been focused on federal issues for years now, trying to make the country better. I've served my state, I've served my country, and I would like to do that. But really, it's always up to the people, isn't it, John? Congratulations, by the way, to your affiliation with Salem Radio. You're going to do very well there. They're a great organization.
Thank you very much, Governor Jim Gilmore. Thanks for being with us today. I think you're going to run. That's what I got a feeling you're going to run. I think you'll add a lot to the debate and certainly make the Republican primary a lot more fun with Jim Gilmore in there. And by the way, if you don't know this, I was at all those Republican debates for president. And Jim Gilmore, I think you were at 3 of them. Is that memory serving? Two of them.
I was permitted.
Cleveland. I know you were in Cleveland, and then I saw you there, and then I saw you where? Des Moines,
Iowa.
Right. So I was at both of those. So everybody knows, and I said this right while I was on the air. Jim Gilmore clobbered everybody in both of those debates. Wasn't even close. And so I thought you won the first one in Cleveland. I thought you won the one in Iowa. And it'll be interesting to see you up on that debate stage yet once again. Out of time. John Fredericks Radio Network. Governor, thanks for being with us. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth.